Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today we are here to talk April TBR. There is a lot going on in April and I am really excited about all of the books that I have to read for this month. As per usual, I have way more than I'm gonna probably be able to accomplish in any given month, but that's okay, we can always dream, right? So let's go ahead and talk about what I'll be reading for in the month of April. So here in the States, we celebrate Arab American Heritage Month, we celebrate Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we celebrate Autism Awareness Month, all in the month of April. So I have some books picked out for all three of those occasions because I like to participate in celebratory months as much as possible. And that said, I just wanted to make a little note, as I always do. We have lots of awareness months, heritage months, and celebratory months here in the States. And while I always try to highlight the specific groups that are being celebrated in the individual month that they are celebrating, that does not mean that I do not read diversely all year long. I make sure that I read a mix of authors from a variety of different backgrounds throughout the year, and I will always continue to do that. On top of reading for Arab American Heritage Month, Autism Awareness Month, and Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I am also going to be working on finishing the rest of the books for the Women's Prize long list. The shortlist is supposed to be announced on the 24th of April, so that gives me 4 more weeks to get 10 books read. I'm not gonna go through all 10 of those books over again because I have an entire playlist that talks about the Women's Prize and my reviews and things, which you can find up here if you're interested. But I do have 10 books left. Of those 10 books, 2 of them I'm already partially through, and 1 of them I've just started recently. So I anticipate that I should be able to move through them pretty quickly. Most of them are relatively short, so I don't think that that should be too much trouble. I'm also really excited because I am doing a buddy read this month with Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics. We're gonna be reading the book Mecca by Susan Straight. This is a book that I had recommended to me at a local indie bookstore in San Diego over the holidays, and I have had it sitting on my shelves. And Alan challenged me to find a modern book to read with him because he reads a lot of classics. And I think that this one sounds like it's gonna be right up his alley. So this book is about a character named Johnny Frias who is working as a highway patrolman. He spends most of his days pulling over speeders, dealing with racist insults, and pushing past the trauma of his rookie year. Little does Johnny know that his moment of action 20 years ago in his rookie year is going to start some slow burning movements that unite a complex cast of characters. So again, this book was highly recommended to me from a indie bookstore owner, and I'm really excited about it. I love that this has Southwestern vibes. I'm actually just about to set off on a road trip through the Southwest, so I might bring this book along with me to read along the way. So now I have a couple of books that I have on audiobook that I'm hoping to get through this month. Most of them are either for Arab American Heritage Month or for Autism Awareness Month. The first book that I'm going to be reading is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. This is for Autism Awareness Month, and this is the story of a boy with autism who sets out to solve the murder of a neighbor's dog. In turn, he learns some unexpected truths about himself and the world around him. And then, surprise, surprise, I'm actually going to try and read a second romance book this year, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This is another book that I'm picking up for Autism Awareness Month. Stella Lane has no experience in dating. Her conclusion is that she needs a lot of practice. She ends up hiring on a professional escort, but pretty soon their no-nonsense arrangement starts to make a certain kind of sense. So I've heard a ton of good things about this book. It was really hyped on Bookstagram when it first came out. Now, if you've been following my channel for a long time, you will know that I rarely ever read romance. In fact, I pretty much obligate myself to read 1 romance per year, and I've already read my romance for this year, and that was in February. I read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. But I knew that this was going to be a really heavy month. A lot of the books that I picked out were really dark, and of course, since it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I've got a couple really potentially heavy books for me. So I wanted to give myself something that's a little bit lighter and fluffier to read. And I also think when we are talking about representation, it's really important to have happy representation, joyous representation, loving representation, not just representation that's focused on trauma. So this book is for Autism Awareness, and I am gonna give a second romance a shot this year. We'll see how that goes. Also for Autism Awareness Month, I'm gonna be reading Look Me in the Eyes by John Elder Robinson. This is a memoir about John's life. He struggles in social settings for most of his life, and at some point is labeled a social deviant. It's not until he's in his 40s that he is finally diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and realizes that he is autistic. Coming to terms with that helped transform the way that he saw himself and the way that he saw the world. And this memoir memoir discusses all of that. I'm really looking forward to getting into this. Next up, I have A Tempest of Tea by Hafsah Faizal. Arthi Castamere is a criminal mastermind and a collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea house transforms into an illegal blood house at night. When her establishment is threatened, she must make a deal with a striking, alluring adversary to save it. I'm really excited about this particular book. I have read Faizal's previous duology, We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, and I enjoyed that one. This is quite a different vibe than that series, and I'm really excited to see how she does with a different style. Then I have No One Prayed Over Their Grades by Khaled Kalifa. December 1907, friends Hannah and Jaquira returned to their small village near Aleppo. It's been a long night of drunken partying, and they are stunned to find that a massive flood has wiped out their village, killing everyone that they've ever loved and decimating their town. Both men are transformed by their grief, with Hannah becoming a mystic that's obsessed with death and the meaning of life. This book is really interesting to me. This is a very unique concept. I can't even imagine what would happen if your entire life was wiped out in one moment, and I'm really curious how Hannah is gonna find meaning in life again. Now to my physical pile of possibilities. There are quite a few of them, and again, I realize that I'm probably not gonna be able to get to every single one of these books, but if I get to half of them, I'll be super excited. So first, I'm gonna go through my books for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and then I will go through my books for Arab American Heritage Month. So first up on my physical TBR is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a book that I feel like needs no introduction because so many people have read it, but just in case you're unfamiliar with it, it is about a teenage girl and her very inappropriate relationship with an older teacher figure. Then I have What Unbreakable Looks Like by Kate McLaughlin. This is about a young woman who is sex trafficked. She's rescued and then she's brought to live with her aunt and uncle. Later in life, she's still struggling with the trauma from being sex trafficked when she is sexually assaulted again, and she comes to realize that she has a voice and she needs to deal with the trauma that she's experienced. This sounds like it's going to be a very heart-wrenching book. And then I have Ordinary Girls by Jaquira Diaz. This is Jaquira's memoir, and it talks about her life growing up in housing projects between Puerto Rico and Miami. Her mom deals with schizophrenia. She is not having a stable home situation. She's dealing with her sexual identity, and she's dealing with the fallout of sexual assault. There is a lot going on, but Jaquira is going to overcome it, and I'm really interested to hear about her story. Then I have Unbound, My Story of Liberation and the Birth of the Me Too Movement by Tarana Burke. So if you're unfamiliar with who Tarana Burke is, this is the woman that created #MeToo and started the Me Too movement before it was hijacked by white feminists. I think that this is going to be a super important book to read. The Me Too movement has been one of the biggest movements to expose sexual predators like in the history of the world, I think. And it's pretty fantastic that out of her trauma and her pain, she created something that was so world changing. I'm really interested in finding out more about her. Then I have Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and I keep hearing how magnificent this memoir is. And I want to read it. I've had it on my TBR for a long time, but I've been holding off because I just know that this is something that's going to be really deep and really hurt my heart. I remember watching this case unfold when Brock Turner was given this ridiculous sentence by this asshole judge who basically felt, you know, his right to go to college and succeed as a white man was more important than the woman that he sexually assaulted in like an alleyway. And I think most women feel really emotionally attached to this case. It's so enraging and infuriating. And I know that this book is going to be really good and really well written. I think it's finally time for me to read it. I've been putting it off for a while, like I said, because I know it's going to be a hard read, but I think it's an incredibly important read. So we're going to try and get to this one this month. Then I have Tell Me Everything, The Story of a Private Investigation by Erika Krause. So this is the story of Krause's time working as a private investigator, and she gets assigned to a sexual assault case. There's a college student who was attacked by football players and recruits at a party a year earlier. Erika has her own history with sexual violence, and this case hits just a little too close to home. But she decides to take it on, thinking that maybe she can make some impact and change. Over the next 5 years, Erika dedicates her life to investigating this case and the culture of sexual harassment that is ingrained in the university's football culture. When the case and her life both implode, Erika has to find a way to balance her need to help win this case with the things that she needs for her own personal well-being. This is another book that I've heard really good things about. Again, another book that I'm sure is going to hit really close to home. but an important story. I think really all of these books sound like very important stories. And this is why I picked out a romance for this month, is because with reading all of these really deep, heavy topics, I think that it's important to have something a little bit light and fluffy to balance it out. And now we're gonna get into the books for Arab American Heritage Month. I have quite a few books picked out, and I'm just gonna kind of mood read through these throughout the month. First up, I have A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. So I read Evil Eye by Etaf Rum, I wanna say 2 months ago, and I loved it. It was my first time reading Rum's writing, and honestly, no surprise to anyone that's read her before, it was fantastic. And I've had this one sitting on my shelf for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. So I thought that this was a good time to pick it up. This is a book set in 2 different timelines. The first timeline is set in Palestine in 1990. The second one is set in Brooklyn in 2008. In 1990, we have 17-year-old Isra, who prefers reading books to entertaining the suitors that her father has chosen for her, but her desires are irrelevant. Over the course of a week, the naive and dreamy girl finds herself betrothed and then married and soon living in Brooklyn. In the 2008 timeline, we have Dea, an 18-year-old who must meet with potential husbands and prepare herself for marriage, though her only desire is to go to college. Her grandmother is firm on the matter, however. The only way to secure a worthy future for Dea is through marriage to the right man. So I think that this is going to be really interesting, seeing this same topic in 2 different timelines, in 2 different spaces, in 2 different generations. And I appreciate this has Palestinian representation with all that's going on in the world right now. I definitely wanted to make sure I had at least a couple books with Palestinian representation this month. Then I have The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Lefteri. So this is about a couple named Nuri and Afra who live in the hills of Aleppo. Nuri is a beekeeper and Afra is a gifted artist. Everything is going well until it's not. When all they love is destroyed by war, Nuri knows that they have no choice except to leave their home. I've heard nothing but good things about this book. Everybody raves about how fantastically written this is. So I'm looking forward to finally getting into this. I know this is gonna be another heartbreaker, I'm sure. Then I have Bride of the Sea by Eman Quotah. So this is about a couple named Munir and Saida, and they're expecting their first child, but he is harboring a secret. The word divorce is whispering in his ears. Soon the marriage will end and Munir will return to Saudi Arabia while Saida remains in Cleveland with their daughter. But Saida is consumed by the growing fear that she will lose her daughter somehow, and so she disappears. The repercussions of that abduction ripple outward, causing shockwaves through the extended family. When the child, Hanadi, finally comes of age, she finds herself torn between the only home she's ever known and the family that's long been waiting for her across the ocean. I actually found this book a long time ago in a little free library and thought it sounded really interesting. I picked it up, kind of stuck it on my TBR cart for paperback books, and then forgot about it. And when I was shifting through my books trying to figure out what to put on my TBR, I saw this again and was like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. So here we have it. Then I found The Perfect Nanny by Leila Salmani. So I think this is somewhat of a psychological thriller. We have Miriam, a French-Moroccan lawyer who has decided to return to work after having children. She and her husband are looking for the perfect nanny for their 2 young children. They never dreamed that they would find Louise, a quiet, polite, devoted woman who sings to the children, cleans the family's chic apartment in the Paris's upscale 10th arrondissement, stays late without complaint, and hosts enviable kiddie parties. But as the couple and the nanny become more dependent on one another, jealousy, resentment, and suspicions mount, shattering the idyllic tableau. So I don't read a lot of thrillers, but this one sounded like an interesting concept. I think I found this one in a little free library as well. And this should be a nice kind of breakup of some of the heavier books that I'm reading this month. Then I have The Moor's Account by Leila Lalami. This is a historical fiction about the discovery of America. This is set in 1527, and we have the conquistador Panfilo de Narvaez, who sails from the port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda with a crew of 600 men and nearly 100 horses. He lands in the United States, but his expedition is beset by tragedy. Only 4 men of the original 600 survive, and they set off on a journey across America. This sounds so good to me. I love a historical fiction, especially when it's covering a topic that I am unfamiliar with. And this is a topic I'm definitely unfamiliar with, although it's one that I think I should be familiar with. And so I'm really excited to do some learning. And then I have Between Two Kingdoms, a memoir of a life interrupted by Suleika Jawoud. And this is about Suleika's life. So she graduates college and then she starts having these unexplainable symptoms. It starts with an itch, first on her feet, then up her legs like 1,000 invisible mosquito bites. Next comes exhaustion, the 6-hour naps that only deepened her fatigue. Then a trip to the doctor, and a few weeks shy of her 23rd birthday, a diagnosis, leukemia, with a 35% chance of survival. Just like that, the life she had imagined for herself has gone up in flames. By the time Jawoud flew home to New York, she had lost her job, her apartment, and her independence. She would spend much of the next 4 years in a hospital bed fighting for her life and chronicling the saga in a column for the New York Times. So this is Sulika's experience with leukemia and her survival and what happened to her afterwards. So if you've been watching my channel for a bit, you'll know that I deal with some chronic illness issues myself. Nothing as extreme as what Sulika has been through, but I think that this might be kind of a cathartic sort of a read for me, because it sometimes can be very isolating and lonely to deal with chronic illness. People don't know how to respond to you, don't know how to talk to you about it. And obviously, like I said, hers was life-threatening, mine is not. But I think that just reading someone else's story and not feeling so alone can be very, very powerful sometimes. So in some ways, I'm really sad to read this, but in other ways, I'm also looking forward to reading it just to kind of have that sense of community. So that's the end of my TBR. I know that it is a massive list. I still have 10 books for the Women's Prize list, a buddy read. I have all the books that I mentioned for Arab American Heritage Month, for Autism Awareness Month, for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I forgot to mention that I also just got my assignments for the quarterfinals of the Booktube prizes. So I have 6 books in the round that I'm judging right now. And of those 6 books, I've already read 1, so I only have to read 5. I have 2 months to do so. So I imagine I'll probably get to 1 or 2 of those books this month as well. Obviously, I realize I'm probably not going to be able to read every single book on this list, but I'm going to give it my all and see how many we can get through. So that being said, I hope you have a fantastic TBR planned for your month of April. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know what you'll be reading in April. Have you read any of the books that I mentioned on this TBR? Any of them sound particularly exciting to you? Tell me all of the things. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.